Well, good evening, friends and kin. Tonight I'm going to sit here and talk to you about some of the vocabulary that I'm going to be using as I proceed in these conversations of ours. This will probably be one in several short videos where I just kind of go over some of the verbiage that you're going to hear a lot, and just to ensure clear communication that we understand each other. Tonight I want to go over the name of the channel, the Gnostic Ministry of the Green, and also the name I'm going by with my channel, fayerie.faith.death.wytch. And so I guess I'll start with Gnostic. That word definitely conjures up a very specific image with a lot of people, especially in esoteric circles. The first thing you think of is Gnostic Christianity, which has to do with a defunct denomination of Christianity. Now, there are people who are operating under that term in the modern day that certainly capture the spirit of the original religious movement. But the original religious movement, of course, was labeled a heresy and destroyed by the early Catholic Church. And I do have some sympathies toward that religious philosophy, but I would not call myself a Gnostic Christian. My usage of the word was inspired by this book right here, The Gnostic Celtic Church by John Michael Greer. It's a name you're going to hear probably quite often in my videos. Mr. Greer has had a profound influence on my life, and for the better. So I'm going to, and just so you understand the context of this book is a manual and book of liturgy intended to be used by a subordinate organization, which is the Gnostic Celtic Church, or GCC, which is subordinate to the AODA, or the Ancient Order of Druids in America, an organization I did investigate and formally join. But after I worked their curriculum for a while, it just didn't seem to click with me, and so I collected what I could gather from it, and I moved on down my path. And if you find yourself to be someone who does the same thing, I want to derail for a minute here, because a lot of times people like us that will make various stops along the course of our journey, but end up moving on, sometimes we feel guilty about it, and it becomes a hang up where we feel like, well, maybe we're not reliable, maybe we're maybe we're too picky or too choosy, or maybe we just don't have the discipline. Well, I'm gonna tell you right now, that's not the right way to look at it. I've struggled with this a lot. I've made a lot of stops in the course of my journey and made the decision to move along for one reason or another. If something's not the right fit, it's not the right fit, and there is no shame in that. And it may be, there may be major reasons that cause it to not be a good fit. Maybe it's minor. But again, if it ain't the right fit, it ain't the right fit. Don't shame yourself for it. It's okay. There was something you needed to find there, and when you find it, it's ready to move on. You're ready to move on to the next lesson. It doesn't matter whether or not you finish their curriculum or finish any course study they offer. If deep in your heart you feel like you've gotten what you needed to get out of it, then it's time to carry on. So don't ever beat yourself up over that. You go where the light of inspiration leads you, and that's the end of that. But so I'm going to read the passage to you that really hit me on a deep level. Just something with this understanding of the term Gnostic really resonated with me. The word Gnostic comes from the Greek word gnosis, which means personal knowledge or recognition. The term was used as a self-description by a diverse and highly creative religious movement that began around the start of the Christian era and continued for several centuries before it was obliterated by religious persecution. Beginning in the 19th century, in an interesting parallel with the 18th century revival of Druidry, the fragments of ancient Gnostic teachings helped spark a series of modern movements that borrowed the concept of gnosis and the ancient Greek teaching that personal experience, rather than dogmatic belief or membership in an organization, can form the heart of a spiritual path. As part of the modern Gnostic movement, the Gnostic Celtic Church affirms that individual experience is central to its vision of spirituality. And when I first picked up this book and read it, that was actually the passage that hooked me and encouraged me to read through the rest of the book to see what Mr. Greer had to offer in it. And there's a lot of good information there and a lot of really good ideas. And but that vision of the term Gnostic just really stuck with me. The idea that my personal experience with interactions with the realm of spirit, that formed the basis of my spirituality, not adherence to some sort of dogmatic plan or vision. It was my experience, my understanding, my collection of knowledge. And so that word pretty accurately describes me and what I seek as far as a spiritual experience and what I want to build in a spiritual fellowship, a place where people can share their gnosis and contribute to each other's gnosis. Now, so now that you understand my usage of the word Gnostic a little bit better, Gnostic ministry of the green. Why the green? Well, I'm going to confess something. I am totally ripping off one of my favorite podcasts, The Old Gods of Appalachia. And if you have not listened to that podcast, don't even listen to the rest of this video. Shut me down right now. Search them on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast from, and start at season 1. Don't try to start later on. You will be lost. You will not understand shit. Go back to the very beginning, and you will start binging it. And a week later, after you have lost your job and your family thinks you've gone missing because nobody's heard from you, please reach out to me and thank me. In the Old Gods of Appalachia, the term the green is used, of course, to reference the natural world and the people that work with and serve it, and also the various spiritual entities and beings that are a part of it, care for it, and interact with us through it. And of course, you know, the people that wrote Old Gods of Appalachia, I think they pulled very much so from real world animistic spirituality when they came up with that concept. And I really just like the way that sounds, because that it's a very simple phrase that has a vast scope of application. The green. That is the living natural world. And that is where I find sacrality. That is where I experience holiness. That is where I pull my inspiration from. So when I put those things together, a Gnostic spiritual path that reverences the green world, I am building gnosis with the spirit of the natural world. So that's sort of the idea behind the title of this channel. Now, as far as fayerie.faith.death.wytch, the term fairy faith is something I've heard multiple times in my life, but I never fully wrapped my head around it until just about 5 or 6 years ago. I always thought that it was in reference to the fairy, F-E-R-I, tradition of witchcraft. The founder, I believe, is Victor Anderson. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Uh, but that's what comes to mind. And it's some people consider it a sister tradition to Wicca, an offshoot of Wicca. Some of the history of it I'm not too certain of, because that's a branch I haven't really delved into very deeply. So if you have gnosis to offer, by all means share it with me. I'll gladly accept it. But no, the fairy faith is a lot of people adopted the term from this book. Evans Wentz, The Fairy Faith in Celtic Countries, which is a collection of folklore and stories from the old Celtic countries. And I haven't read the whole thing cover to cover. In fact, over the course of my journey, I've used this book as more of a reference book. It's not one I sat down and read cover to cover. It's one that I go to like an encyclopedia or a dictionary. And the material in there is very inspirational and very fascinating on a number of different levels. And we'll probably have an episode of on this channel where I do a little bit of a deeper dive, and maybe even do so with a guest. I've got a couple of people that have spoken to me who are interested in coming on here and doing an episode with me. One of whom we've talked about going over books that are considered foundational for the modern ideas behind the fairy faith. So there's this one, and then there's Robert Kirk's, I think it's The Secret Commonwealth. I'm bad at remembering book titles sometimes. Author names, I can pull them out of my head like that. Book titles, I always get backwards, sideways, and mix authors between their book titles, and it's funny how memory works. But either way, this book has been a tremendous resource, and has heavily shaped the way I view my own animistic spirituality. As did Robert Kirk's work. It was very short, but it was very direct and to the point. And to me, what the fairy faith is, the fairy faith, in conjunction with the green is the vast, broad concept of the vast spiritual ecology. We'll call it that. So the ecology beyond just the material plane, the ecology of the realms unseen. The green is the term I use to describe that a simple word I use to describe that vast concept, the web of life throughout the multiverse of existence. The fairy faith in particular is the act of engaging with intelligences, spirits that are that are attached to the green, but part of the unseen element of it, the realms beyond the physical. So the fairy faith is specifically seeking out those intelligences, the call them land wights or genus loci. There's a myriad of other terms, but the spirits of specific places, and engaging with them, making pacts or covenants with them, to give them offerings, whether it's offerings in the form of food and drink, or maybe they like to hear songs, so you write music and perform it for them. These sorts of pacts and covenants can take on a variety of shapes and sizes and forms and expressions. There is no limit to how they can be expressed. So, and then as far as Death-wytch, that is in reference to my veneration of Santa Muerte. And that has an interesting history to it. I'll get into some of it now. Then again, there's probably going to be another episode where I kind of deep dive that. But my experience with her, simply put, she came to me. This is a deeply personal story. But and this is probably why it's such an important relationship to me. Uh, she's been with me for a lot longer than the time period I have acknowledged her and sought to gather more gnosis of her. It really all started with the death of my grandmother when I was 15. So we were incredibly close. And I was very sad and deeply distraught over her loss. But at the same time, I was comforted. She lost a very long. Well, I shouldn't say she lost. She finished a battle with cancer. For a good chunk of my life, I would tell that story and say she lost her battle, but she didn't lose it. No, she definitely won. But she finished her battle of cancer after 2 years when I was 15. And once I went through those phases of despair and sadness and even a little bit of anger, I felt this sense of comfort that death, the spirit of death, is not what took her from this world or from me, and it was certainly nothing personal. The spirit of death actually brought her comfort from an illness that had her in an incredible level of suffering. And I began to understand death not as a predator, but as a more of a midwife figure that facilitated our transition from one state to another. And that image stuck with me, and that image continued to grow in my mind. And the next experience I had with her was when my father died of a different variety of cancer about 11 years ago. And toward the end, he was having issues with oxygen deprivation to the brain. And so his symptoms mimicked things like Alzheimer's or dementia. He would have hallucinations, and he had a hard time discerning reality from dreams. And he was not dying peacefully. So I did a prayer ritual one night, and I called out to just about every deity or entity associated with death that I was aware of, and I asked for aid in helping him to peacefully pass, and and he did. I won't give you all the details. I don't want to trauma dump on all you folks. Not yet, anyway. I'll let you get to know me a little better before I do that. But that definitely did happen. My father passed away very peacefully, and I remember feeling a sense of comfort. And again, this image of this midwife, this very motherly, nurturing figure, uh, bringing him comfort and helping him transition from one state of being to another. And then many years later, I would be walking through a bookstore, and a book on Santa Muerte literally just fell off the shelf. And I picked it up and started reading it, and within its pages were several stories of people who had deeply personal encounters with Santa Muerte. And they sounded a lot like the experiences I had concerning the loss of my grandmother and my father. And so I began building an altar to her. I constructed a set of rosary beads and learned a rosary style prayer, which I recite most every morning now. And it's a part of my daily routine. I give her offerings, and I do work styles of folk magic with her. And she's been an amazing companion in my life. And so she will always be near and dear to my heart because she's always been there. It just took me a while to recognize her for who she was. So that, in a nutshell, is the the sort of the foundation stone vocabulary surrounding my channel. Um, you've got, you now understand the Gnostic ministry of the green and fayerie.faith.death.wytch. And I guess I'll also zero in on the term ministry. I have no desire to ever do like a 501c3, which for those outside of the states, that's, you know, where you start a nonprofit organization. That's how you file with the government, with the IRS, for tax purposes and all that. So I'm never going to be a nonprofit organization. I don't ever really plan for this to be a formal church or anything like that. But to me, the idea of a ministry is something that helps people find spiritual direction. And it's a fellowship. It's a place that you can turn for both guidance and comfort. And that's what I want to build here. And it isn't going to come in the form of me lecturing to you or directing you where to go and what to do. Even though I'm speaking to you through a video, I very much want these to be two-way conversations. Please talk to me in the comments. Share your experiences with me, and make this interactive. It's not about putting somebody behind a pulpit and spewing out commandments and thou shalt nots and thou shalls and dictating to you what's valid and what's not. That's never going to be a factor here. The term ministry is used strictly in the sense of a group of people who share their experience and their strength and things that give them hope, looking for support and guidance. And that's it. Well, I hope this is probably, like I said, I'll do a few more videos about vocabulary and terminology. But hopefully after this video, you know, we're all on the same page as far as what I hope to build with this channel. And I look forward to hearing from all of you in the comments, and I look forward to hearing your experiences and getting to know all of you a little bit better. Y'all have a blessed evening.